Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings. My name is Michael Jacks. I'm a tea drinker. Anyone who knows me will know that I love writing with pens. I always have a pen or several with me. This is my Visconti. Wonderful tool that's used almost every single day. But I can't write books with pens. Heaven knows I've tried. I even started up a project a couple of years ago where I was just going to write with pens. I was going to produce an entire manuscript because I thought that'd be a great idea. But I found it was so slow, so much slower than typing, that it made the process of writing quite painful. I would love to copy people like Dickens, Austen and Trollope and handwrite everything, but the sad fact is I can't. I was born in a different period. So the next logical step would be, because I like old things, maybe I ought to go to a typewriter, like a lovely old silver reed like this. But the trouble with this is, it's gorgeous, it's very convenient, but everything I typed on it would have to be retyped on the computer. Yes, I could use an optical character reader in theory, I could try to get everything scanned in, but the sad fact is I've never found an optical character reader that worked very well, and any scanner I've tried to use in the past has pretty much failed. So I started to wonder what other options there were, and it was just over a year ago some lovely people at a firm called Astrohaus sent me this to review, an Astrohaus Freewrite. Simple device, very old-fashioned style of keyboard. A Wi-Fi connection, it's got 3 different folders with a number of documents, it's got an on switch and it's got a carrying handle. There you go, that's a complete overview of the Freewrite. I reviewed it, I tested it for 2 weeks and I loved it so much I had to buy the darned thing. That was a year ago. So a year on, how am I getting on with it? Well, I've not managed to write a complete book on it. I've not managed to write a complete short story on it, so it's obviously a failure, right? No, wrong. It is fantastic. The way I tend to write is I'll write for about an hour at a time. In an hour I can get 1,000 words down, and 1,000 words is roughly one scene. Now, when I start writing a book, I will use this almost exclusively. I'll type everything up on this. It will produce the first 60 to 80% of a novel, but when I get to that sort of level, especially with crime books, it's got a reducing amount of use, because what I tend to do is, as I get towards the back end of the book, I keep referring back to earlier scenes to try to make sure where I put in the red herrings, or adding red herrings if I'm changing the plot at the very end. You can't do that so easily on this. This is for typing forwards all the time, not for looking back at what you were doing earlier. Really, this thing comes into its own when I'm away from my desk. That can be 2 things. It can be I've just got bored with sitting in that chair there and I want to go and sit in something a bit more comfortable. I want to go and sit in the sitting room, say. The sitting room's a good room because it's got a log burner and it's a lot warmer. As you can see, my office is not that warm, especially today, it's freezing. So this is ideal for just carrying with me, putting it on my lap and typing. I've said in other videos, I won't labour the point, but I hate using ordinary laptops nowadays. The glass screens, the very flat bases, mean that I find them intensely uncomfortable to use. You open it up on your lap and it feels as though it's going to overbalance all the time. I won't even mention the frankly hideous keyboards that they tend to have. This, sit it on your lap, you can read the screen from almost any angle, and it is comfortable, it never feels like it's going to overbalance, the keys feel fabulous under your fingers, it is just a joy. Another reason why I like this is because when you're working on a book and you sit at a screen for several hours, like yesterday I spent 6 or 7 hours at the screen, my eyes were very tired at the end of it. Using this, I find that the e-ink screen is much easier on the eyes. Now you can use it in dull mode like this, which is just being lit by the lights around me, but it also has its own backlight, which makes it very easy to use even if it's pitch black around. The screen, I find, an absolute joy. It really comes into its own though when you're travelling. I always used to have a laptop, so I've had 2 MacBook Airs, I've had an Apple G4, brilliant devices, but they were just glorified typewriters for me. They were great when I went away on a signing trip or something and I wanted to be able to surf the net, check emails, do all the other good things that you can do with a computer. But I've got a phone that does all that now. I don't need that sort of capability. This thing, take it away and I can actually type and work. When I first bought an Apple G4, it was thinking, because I had a lot of meetings to go to in London, I was chairman of the Crime Writers Association at the time, and I thought having a device so that I could type on the train would be really useful. It wasn't, it was absolutely hopeless. The most I ever managed, I think, was 300 words on a trip to Paddington, which was 2.5 hours. When I use this on the train, I get easily 3,000 to 3,500 words typed. It's much more effective as a tool for typing on. I mean, 3,500 words is pretty good for most people in an entire day's typing. To do that on a train is astonishing, but it's regular for me. It's brilliant. Now, a lot of people will complain that there's no editing function. There's not even a cursor control key. For me, it doesn't matter. I like the fact that when I'm typing on this, I can only type creatively. I can't go back and edit. If I see that I've mistyped a word 1 or 2 words behind, I'll just use the backspace over and delete all of the characters until I get to the point I want to restart, and then I'll type on. That's as much of a blockage on my creativity as I can tolerate. I just want to be able to type the scene straight through with this. I don't want to edit. This is for getting my ideas down while they're still fresh in my mind. And so, okay, 1 year on, are there things I dislike about it? Yes, there are. One thing is, when you turn on the device, it brings you straight into the latest document you've been working on. Now, that's perfectly useful if you're typing, you just want to go straight back to the point where you left off. However, it would be useful to have some sort of file management system. If you could go into it, the machine and see all of the different files listed. You can, ironically, if you plug it in through the USB at the back to your computer. So you can plug it into your computer, you can see all the different files listed by the first line of the document, and then you can pull any number of them straight onto your computer. So it makes sense if you could just see what they are on the Freewrite itself. However, it's a pretty minor thing. It doesn't really matter that much because I am constantly typing forward, so I don't really care what was there beforehand. Another thing that is a minor niggle is that when you've typed up a bunch of documents, you pull them through onto your computer, you can't then delete them from the Freewrite. You can't delete, you can plug this in as a USB memory on the computer, but you cannot delete any of the files that are there that you see on your computer. The only way you can delete things from this is you have to go into Astrohaus's proprietary cloud-based system, Postbox. If you go into Postbox, log into it, then you can shred any of the files that you see on there. And then it'll sync with this, it'll remove them from here. It's a convoluted process. I don't see why it should be that difficult. Thirdly, well, as you can see, my old typewriter has a nice hard shell that came with it. This should too. I mean, at the end of the day, it's got a carrying handle. It works as its own carrying unit. It ought to have just a hard plastic case you can drop it into, or maybe like that typewriter, just a case that fits over the top. There should be something. That's an e-ink screen. It's plastic. It'll get damaged. It seems very tight-fisted not to have something that would protect it. Okay, so that's 3 things: ability to delete, file management, and a hard case. Other people would complain because they can't surf the internet, they can't do emails, they can't do all the other things. It's a computer, they will say. I can do more than that on my phone. Yes, you can. Not that many phones are as cheap as this, though. It's only 388 quid. It's not a device that's designed to replace your computer or your phone. It is a specialist tool for professional writers to get their first draft down. Yes, as I said, it doesn't for me fulfill the whole of the first draft because I have to keep doing my jigging around. But for me, it is a brilliant tool that saves me a lot of time at home. It means I can work when I'm away from my desk. And it's infinitely easier to type on than the average laptop. It's much more comfortable than my MacBooks. It has a far better keyboard. It has a better screen for typing on, and the balance when it's on your lap is just lovely. So much more comfortable. And as I say, it's £388. Put that into perspective. If you were going to buy a MacBook standard, the cheapest I think is £1,200, 4 times the price. Even the cheapest MacBook Air is £1,000 now, so that's 2.5 times the price of this. And they do lots of things. They do lots of things I don't want to do. This is a specialist tool for the one purpose, and it does that one job exceedingly well. So there you go, Astrohaus Freewrite, a typewriter for the 21st century, I guess. You'll may be interested to know Astrohaus are bringing out another unit, the Traveller, which is smaller because it's much thinner. It's the thickness of the keyboard, but it's clamshell, so it's got scissor switches, not real keyboard, and it's lighter, but I've got a suspicion that means it'll feel very unbalanced on my lap, so I don't think I'm going to like that as much as this. But Astrohaus have said that they will send me one of their Travellers for me to test so that I can do another review, so hopefully that'll be along before too long. I hope you liked it. If you did, please subscribe, share, like, all those good things. And if you've got any questions or comments that you'd like to make, or ideas for future reviews or videos, please put that in the comment section too. I'll be delighted to look at it. And in the meantime, that's all for now. I'm going to go back to a warm cup of tea. Oh, I've finished it. I'm going to go and make myself another cup of tea. Take care. Cheers.